Hello everyone and welcome back to LewisFiction and welcome to Rewriting Spider-Man No Way Home. If you have not seen my Rewriting MCU Spider-Man series up until this point, make sure you go back and start off with Rewriting Spider-Man in Civil War and follow my videos all the way up until here. But if you are caught up and you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe and sit back, grab some snacks and enjoy the fanfiction. We kick off this film with a man called Luther, who is a new supervillain around the block. He's a very niche Spider-Man villain who has just begun a small criminal operation in the wake of Spider-Man's disappearance, as crime rises throughout New York City. Kingpin will also be on the rise during this time as well, however he'll be nothing more than a cameo in this film and will be dealt with more on the Daredevil side of things. A big section of this film also at the start is dedicated to everyone wondering where Spider-Man has gone. He's ultimately disappeared and crime is rising and people are pleading for his return. And on the complete opposite side of that, as New York starts to decline, we cut to a happy Peter Parker. Or a Peter Parker who seems to be happy on the outside. Everything in his life is going right. And at the start of this film, he is actually graduating from high school, similar to the real Spider-Man No Way Home. He's been on top of his studies and it looks like he's going to be getting really good grades. Also, in the wake of May's death, he's been staying with MJ Watson, and then plans after his graduation to rent an apartment from the stuff that he sold from May's apartment. On the outside, Peter is happy, but this is when we start to learn that maybe Peter isn't actually so happy. He's constantly thinking about May, and MJ will come into his room and confront him. We'll get a really nice scene between the two, where we get to see where they're at with each other at this point in the story. Peter thanks her for being there for him. However, they're still not dating, as Peter needs time after May's death to figure things out. MJ ultimately respects this, but that doesn't negate the romantic tension that is still there between the two. However, one thing that I want to put emphasis on is this romantic tension between MJ and Peter is a lot more mature in this film, at least in comparison to how it was in Spider-Man Homecoming, and through that you're able to see the growth and maturity of both of these characters. Part of the reason that they're also not together in this film ties into Peter's character arc, because Peter is scared that she'll get hurt. That still runs through his mind after May's death. Everything that Peter does in this film is influenced by the death of his Aunt May. MJ ends up leaving Peter alone, but Peter can't sleep. That night constantly haunts him, and it's clear that he's still running from it. Another thing that we set up in this film is that Peter will also have to get a job. After graduating from high school, Peter is going to have to pay his rent after all the money is gone from the stuff that he sold from May's house. Peter sends his application to multiple places. The only place that will take him is a paper called Frontline, which is ran by the MCU's version of Robbie Robertson, who has left the Daily Bugle recently to start it up. On the MJ side of things, she also gets a working job as an amateur reporter at another newspaper company called The Paper. She does this while she waits for college to pursue her passion in acting, which will be established during this film. However, her employers are jerks and treat her like she can't do anything. MJ is constantly trying to prove them wrong, but she always ends up getting the short end of the stick. She's chasing a big break, and that will be her main story throughout this film. As I mentioned, Robbie hires him as a photographer. Peter has experience with photography of Spider-Man, saying he's helped with some of his YouTube videos. Robbie puts him on the Luther case. This is when, during his time at Frontline, Peter will catch a glimpse of a TV show in the background, which is being reported on by Frontline TV. It's of a man called Kraven the Hunter. Peter asks Robbie who is Kraven the Hunter, and he explains he's one of the greatest hunters to have ever lived. He used to hunt animals, but now he's going cross-country hunting superheroes, and he's announced this morning he's coming to New York. We cut a few scenes later and the looter is committing another heist, and Peter is quickly on the scene to take photos for Robbie. However, as Peter arrives on the scene, he feels a sense of remorse. He could be doing something to help, but this is where he starts getting flashbacks to May's death. It's still haunting him every single day. Peter knows that with great power comes great responsibility, but if he intervenes as Spider-Man, is someone gonna get hurt? This is a mental struggle and a mental battle that will plague Peter throughout this film, and this continues to full effect here. However, before Peter could really intervene or make a decision in any sort of way, someone else arrives on the scene. That's right, it's Kraven the Hunter, as dramatic athlete-looking men drop down from a helicopter with cameras to film Kraven. Kraven goes on to interrupt the looter, saying he's his first prey of New York. People cower as he grabs Luther by the throat, and he tries to fight back, but it's useless. Peter looks down and he sees he doesn't have a suit. Kraven kidnaps Luther and takes him away, as Peter realizes he couldn't do anything. Kraven the Hunter has struck, and his first victim is the Luther. Peter goes on to do some research into Kraven and his TV show, and finds rumors stating that the show is staged for realism, but also some rumors that state the show is corrupt. To get around multiple legality problems, Kraven always claims that the show is staged, but multiple accounts have come out saying otherwise. A constant theme throughout the report suggests that no one really knows what happens to the victims after they're captured. They either go missing, or they come back and they're never the same. One that managed to escape and actually speaks out about the situation is a man called Frederick Myers. Peter ends up teaming up with MJ, who works for the paper, to team up and use both of their resources from Frontline and the paper to get an interview with Frederick Myers. Fred goes on to tell Peter and MJ about what happened with Kraven and tells them that they don't just kill people, they torture them. Kraven pushes the body to its absolute limit. Whatever Peter and MJ are looking into, they should stay firmly away from Kraven and his people. Peter then has a conversation with MJ, discussing everything that they found out about Kraven. MJ tells him that he needs to get back in the suit. Peter says that he can't. What if she gets hurt like May? Peter starts to break down, and MJ holds him. With May always at the forefront of Peter's mind, MJ has to remind Peter of what Uncle Ben told him. With great power comes great responsibility. Spider-Man represents hope, and those people that are being kidnapped by Kraven unlawfully need a bit of hope right now. They're all in danger, and there's only one man that can save them. And that's Spider-Man. And with that, Peter begrudgingly puts the suit back on, only because he feels like it's his responsibility to help the people in need. Not because he wants to, not because of any personal reason, but because they need saving. Peter tracks down Kraven using some of the info from Frontline along with his own detective skills. He tracks him to a base of operations on the outskirts of the Bronx. He enters the arena as he sees skeletons and dead bodies everywhere. This is more horrific than Peter could have imagined. Those are all people that Kraven has kidnapped and tortured. People that Kraven has took unwillingly. Peter finds a damp hallway where he sees Luther locked up in a jail cell. Luther calls out his name and tells him to run. His spider sense goes off as Peter dodges out of the way of a spear. A bunch of darts head his way, but Peter can't dodge them all as one of them hits him in the shoulder as he passes out. Peter then wakes up, tied up with Kraven in front of him. Kraven says he came to New York for the ultimate prize, but to his disappointment, he was nowhere to be found. But ultimately, in the end, he couldn't resist coming to the aid of the others. And that's when Peter realizes it was a trap this whole time. Kraven was after Spider-Man. He sees Spider-Man as the ultimate prey, the ultimate test, and he's managed to get him out of hiding. He turns around to face Spider-Man, and Peter asks why you're doing this, and Kraven explains that he's always loved the animal kingdom, and his one true goal is for humanity to face its natural state. He asks why the TV show, and Kraven says not only the publicity and the money, but so he can showcase to the world his ideology, and his way of thinking of life. Peter tries to break free, but his shackles are made of adamantium. Kraven says he will face a trial, just like all the others. MJ then starts panicking as it's been a while and Peter hasn't been in contact with her. She assumes the worst and decides to go and try and find Peter. She ends up tracking down Kraven's hideout herself, based off the information that Peter had already shared with her. Peter, however, is placed on trial during this time, as he is sent to the same arena. He is locked up, shackled to the wall, as Kraven releases a hungry lion into the arena with him. Kraven watches from afar as Spider-Man has to fight off a lion with his hands tied behind his back. The way Kraven determines if his victims are worthy of fighting him is if they can fight off a hungry lion first. It's sick and it's twisted, but it's the way Kraven operates. Spider-Man ends up fending off from the lion as Kraven says it's impressive. Kraven says Spider-Man has proved he's a top predator, and now it's time to face an even bigger adversary. Kraven leaps down himself as the shackles are released from Spider-Man. However, MJ during this time makes her way to the hideout and manages to sneak near to the arena, watching the battle. Peter and Kraven fight, but Kraven is absolutely brutal, beating Spider-Man to a pulp. Peter is down and almost out for the count until MJ intervenes. Kraven looks over to her, distracting him. This gives Peter the chance to get back in the fight as he gets Kraven off him. He webs over to MJ as they both try and escape. This escape sequence is then followed by Kraven seeing it as a challenge as he chases after them. This action sequence will be brutal, fun, and heart-racing. And just when you think Spider-Man and MJ will succeed, Kraven ends up capturing MJ and tells Spider-Man to ensure the girl's safety, he will have to fight him to the death, not like a coward, like a man. And thus Peter's fears come full circle. MJ is in harm's way, which is the last thing he wanted. We then transition over to the final conflict of the film as Kraven takes the three of them out on a large boat in the middle of the Hudson River with nowhere to run, one battle arena and one fight. Kraven says it's time, as they both engage in a civilized combat. Peter is holding back, but Kraven isn't. Peter this time, however, realizing that Kraven is big and bulky, uses his agility to his advantage. Realizing there's nowhere to run, he has to figure out a way to beat Kraven head on. Spider-Man ends up allowing himself to run in circles around Kraven, as he ends up rightfully beating him, saving the day and saving MJ. Kraven is then taken to prison as his whole TV scheme is exposed and the murder of multiple superpowered people. After the dust has settled, MJ and Peter sit atop a roof in New York, looking out to the city, with Peter in his Spider-Man suit. MJ holds Peter's bruised face in her arms. Peter tells her that she shouldn't have come for him. She could have got hurt, or worse, thinking back to Aunt May. They then get onto the topic of what are they? What are they to each other? And Peter says that they can't be together. It's too dangerous. If Kraven has taught them anything, she could get hurt, or worse. MJ says no. She's sick of this back and forth. She says that she loves him, and that's her choice. Whether he's Spider-Man or not, she loves Peter Parker, and she wants to be with him. She also goes on to say that as long as he's Spider-Man, she'll always be at risk. But that's a risk that she's willing to take, and that is her choice, to be with him. Peter smiles, and they kiss as the sun sets on New York City. The film outros with MJ breaking the Kraven story at the paper, proving herself to her employers, and Peter back to full-time as Spider-Man, confident at the man he has become, as he now has that stable rock in MJ. MJ goes off to acting school as Peter moves on to his own apartment. It's all ended well for Peter Parker and MJ, but there is many more ups and downs, and many more adventures to come for the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Thank you for watching my Spider-Man No Way Home rewrite. Obviously, it's a very big difference from the actual movie, but given the continuity that I was setting up in the previous films, I feel like this was a good send-off. Obviously, I always wanted to make it more grounded than the actual films were. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed. Leave a like if you did. Leave a comment down below what you think, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, and keep writing stories.